And I am live. Awesome. We're with you in just a second.
You can use a mount to cover long distances quickly.
And there we go. Hello everyone, you might be watching this back. Since it was really popular among my regulars and also among others, I will now do more of the Discovery Tour of Assassin's Creed Origins. Or rather, it's ancient Egypt, even though it's not ancient Egypt, it's more later ancient Egypt. Much later. Anyway, let's not argue semantics. So we did the tours that are in this vicinity here. So let's crack on with that one. It's 20 minutes long, that's a good thing. But I think I am gonna change character to Aya. Now you can fast travel to all the tour starts, but I just like watching.
Are necessary when exploring Egypt: water, a good camera, and an omnipresent voice coming from nowhere.
Sound broke something. Hello Paul, how's work?
Welcome to the Siege of Alexandria. Among the collection of writings attributed to Julius Caesar are his descriptions of the Siege of Alexandria, the Gallic Wars, and the commentaries on the Civil War. These archives contain information on different campaigns: the Wars of Alexandria, Africa, and Spain. Each of them recounts Caesar's military activity from 58 BCE to 45 BCE. Though Caesar's documents remain a main source of information, it's important to note that the perspective is limited. It is necessary for other historical documents to be taken into consideration to provide a better understanding of events.
Well, if you're watching me, then you're not really working, are you? Yandi would like that because it's painted, not pure marble.
The Siege of Alexandria closely relays the events of the Civil War that led up to the event and describes how Caesar was besieged in the palace of the Ptolemies.
Hello,
Other
Jean.
ancient authors have left equally valuable and sometimes contradictory information.
So this is the palace from the drawings from Jean-Claude Galvin.
Γέωση των θεών. Σιγαρεώδια την πιστευόμαστε. Σύζυγο δε. Καταλήψασα καλά. Σαφούς
Let's have a little drink. Strong stuff. She's smiling, it's so disturbing.
In the events leading up to the Siege of Alexandria, Cleopatra VII and her brother were fighting over control of Egypt. Young King Ptolemy XIII's regent, Pothinus, had firm control over the young pharaoh, and an outmaneuvered Cleopatra soon went into hiding. This set the stage for Pompey's arrival in Alexandria. Having lost his battle against Caesar in 48 BCE, the Roman general turned to his allies, the Egyptians, for safe harbor. But on the advice of Pothinus, Ptolemy XIII had Pompey assassinated in the hopes of earning Caesar's favor. This would turn out to be a most unfortunate decision.
Yeah, because this is an event that is in the game, actually, that you get to see play out. So that's fun.
Εάν μη άκουσον δίδασε, απάντησόν μη.
Dear me.
Upon his arrival in Alexandria, Caesar was presented with Pompey's head. The sight of a Roman murdered by Egyptians did not sit well with him. Caesar made his displeasure clear, ordering the return of Cleopatra, and for the siblings to resolve their differences and resume their co-rule of Egypt, as per the will of their father. Neither Pothinus nor Ptolemy XIII wished to accede to this demand. While doing his best to aggravate Caesar, Pothinus secretly plotted against the Roman ruler and sent word for Egyptian general Achilles to bring his 20,000 men to fight on his behalf. While Pothinus plotted against Caesar, Cleopatra made a bold move.
Then how are you supposed to pronounce it, John? Is that painted or is it just darker marble? It looks a bit painted to me. Did it do anything in here? Pompey.
Μαλαχέρε.
Really?
Συγγνώμη. Όρθε. Χαίρε.
Oh, and John, you remember the statues last time that was in the library with the seashells on the boobs? In the proper game, those seashells are not there. Hi, Brendan.
Καλώς ήρθατε.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because it is an educational mode that is intended to be used in schools. So yeah, it could very well be that they don't want children to see boobs, even though babies see more boobs than I have. What can I do here?
Πλακώνται μύθος πάσα τούτα. Α, ο κοίδαν
Oh,
δεν. Α, μπορεί.
I have no idea what she's doing. She's been very threatening. But no one liked Ptolemy, so... That sounds lovely, Brendan. Assassinate. Oh. Imagine this in VR. Would that be swell? Look, there are the seashells again. They don't really mix things up with the statues, do they? They have like two female statues they use all over again. I mean, they're good handiwork, but still a bit lazy.
There are various descriptions of the encounter between Caesar and Cleopatra. One report states that she snuck into the palace alone at night. Another account claims she was accompanied by an ally and was brought inside the palace wrapped in a carpet bag. Though exactly what happened at this fateful meeting is up for debate, what is known is that Cleopatra met with Caesar and earned his approval. Pothinus and Ptolemy XIII were most vexed with this turn of events.
That's also part of the main game. To sneak Cleopatra inside the palace. Don't want to give too much away though. The palace is gone too, right, John? It's not... No way! Oh my god, John. Yawn. Can't really do this, yawn. Oh, that's too bad. Is it only by earthquake, or is it... Hello, Nick. Is it only earthquake, or was it raided as well as the library? Hello, sir.
Θηρίου ευώδη μου παραγίγνεστε τάχα. Ω της Μωρίας.
I did not do that. Why is there a dead man there?
With Cleopatra finally present, Caesar chose to act as mediator between the siblings in the hopes of a peaceful resolution. It did not take long for things to sour. During a banquet given to celebrate the reconciliation, there was an assassination attempt on Caesar. It was the Roman leader's own barber who thwarted the attack. Once it was revealed that the king's regent, Pothinus, had ordered the attack, Caesar had him executed. He then placed the young king under guard.
Yeah, it's a really good game, Nick. I'm playing it again via New Game Plus. I'm not bored at all. It's bring your own drink bowl. So I'm guessing that's the barber or the assassin. I wonder. Oh, I can't sit on it. I can kinda. Yeah, BYOB. Bring your own bowl. Not very good composition of that image, but oh, I wanted to join the dance party.
Είναι αυτόν φωνή σας δεν βούλετε.
Ah, there's the boar again. I understand why they are reusing assets. They can't do unique things all over the place, but brings you out a bit. I am hidden. Can't do a proper meerkat impression though. Were these people here before? I can't remember. Oh no, they were not. Because I would have remembered walking through a garrison.
Caught within the palace with roughly 4,000 troops, and with the knowledge that the arrival of enemy forces was imminent, Caesar sent for help from Syria, Rhodes, and Cilicia. He ordered his men to dig a ditch around the palace and build a wall leading to the harbor. This would ensure Caesar's access to the sea. When Egyptian General Achilles arrived in the city with 20,000 men, the battle for Alexandria began.
Another part of this in the game. This whole siege of Alexandria is in the game, so I don't know why I keep bringing it up. Monster Hunter is a pretty good game though, to be fair, Paul. It's a bit funny that when I walked through here before, there was nothing of this here. And it just loaded up while I was inside the palace.
With so few men at his disposal, Caesar could not risk a battle just yet. He sent ambassadors to Achilles in the name of Ptolemy to propose a truce. Knowing that the orders did not come from the young king, and angered by the pharaoh's imprisonment, Achilles had the messengers assassinated. With Caesar confined within the palace, Achilles positioned his troops around the city. Skirmishes broke out throughout the streets of Alexandria and went on for several days and nights. Though they were outnumbered, Caesar's men were able to hold the enemy back. This prompted Achilles' next move: capture the Roman fleet stationed in the harbor.
All the concept art from the developers. Hey, Of course she's Canadian. Ubisoft is from Montreal. And how did you discern that she was Canadian, John? Did you say oot? And a boot? A. Outnumbered. Is that a boss in Dark Souls, Paul? No, it's from Monster Hunter, isn't it? Maybe I should run instead of walking. Or else this would take forever. Out of my way, horse. Aya's coming through. Oh, you mean your palico? I thought you meant your real cat, Nick.
Although the palace offered protection, losing the port meant the end of help and supplies. Caesar knew he had to protect the fleet. While he and his troops succeeded in regaining control of the port, he knew it would be impossible to sustain. Caesar ordered the burning of the ships. With passage back to the palace closed off, he headed for the lighthouse of Alexandria.
But wouldn't Anis be like, oh, it's so cute, so cute. That's not Anis, I know, but kawaii. Is that Nike?
Fighting their way through the Egyptian troops, Caesar and his men eventually reached Ferris Island. There, they took refuge within the lighthouse.
Yeah, she's not.
With easy access to the open sea, Caesar was able to send messages to his allies requesting reinforcements and more supplies. The island fort also allowed him to control access to the harbor by relying on the chains used by the Egyptians to control ship traffic to and from Alexandria's docks.
Hello, Punky. Welcome to Egypt. How are you doing, sir? Jon, is this Nike? I thought you had lunch, Punky. How could you be starving if you had lunch? I mean, that was, what, 4 hours ago? But still. Ah, soup. Yeah, you don't get full soup.
The exact chronology of events during the war in Alexandria remain imprecise. Conflicting accounts raise questions as to when, and even if, the Great Library of Alexandria was burned down at all. One account states that during the fighting, docks and warehouses were burned, and this was the fire that spread to the library. In another account, when Achilles cut off the harbor, Caesar had to leave the safety of the palace to defend his ships. As the enemies battled across the port, their arsenals set ships ablaze, and this destruction spread to the library.
Yes, this is Assassin's Creed Origins, and it's the Discovery Tour mode, which is basically like a here's all the facts we learned about ancient Egypt when we studied for this game, when we did research and stuff. And yeah, the game looks awesome even on a PS4, normal PS4, I might add.
In either case, the Great Library was not completely destroyed. Experts point out that its location was too far from the harbor, and much later texts refer to the Great Library as being intact. Warehouses near the harbor contained manuscript copies awaiting export, and it is more likely that these documents were destroyed than the Great Library itself.
Yeah, that's the usual problem, Punky. You have too much games. Too many games, sorry. I know English. Yes, Origins. I have most of the games that I want to have.
The destruction of the Great Library may have been due to a number of fires over the ages. Its end was probably closer to the 4th century CE, when the Christian Emperor Theodosius I ordered the closure of all pagan temples. While some documents survived after being moved away, it remains unclear just what knowledge may have been lost.
All the knowledge.
Where there are accounts of Achilles being in control of the battle against Caesar, it appears that instead Cleopatra's sister, siding with her brother, had him killed and put her ally Ganymedes in his place. Ganymedes proved a valuable tactician for the Egyptian side. It was his idea to cut Caesar's access to the harbor, thus trapping Caesar at the palace.
Well, we don't know, John. He might do it later. It's not Achilles, it's another person. It's not the Achilles.
During the time of Ptolemy I, canals had been dug throughout Alexandria to provide fresh water. Ganymedes had his men take control of these canals. After isolating their own water supply, he had his men pour salt water into the canals and cisterns that led to Caesar's camp.
This is a long-ass tour. Bye, Punky. Have a good food.
Panic erupted in Caesar's men. They wouldn't last long without fresh water. Recognizing that the porous limestone could help them, Caesar and his men dug wells to restore their water supply. Days later, the 37th Legion, comprised of Pompey's soldiers, arrived by ship. Unable to come ashore due to the winds, Caesar risked going out to meet them on the peninsula, Cape Chersonese. When the enemy learned Caesar's location, they rushed to intercept. Despite an obvious advantage for the Alexandrians, Caesar, with a Rhodian ship full of skillful sailors, emerged victorious.
I guess they were both Greek or Roman.
With help from the Allied ships, Caesar's victory enabled him to push the Egyptians back and secure the lighthouse. Gaining control of Pharos Island sent the Alexandrians into the sea and swimming back to the city. However, Caesar's fortification of the island didn't last long. The enemy regrouped and were set to storm the island. Panic-stricken, in spite of Caesar's encouragement, many of his men then fled their posts, either by ship or jumping into the sea.
Cowards. Horsies. I could do this on horseback, by the way, but I decided not to.
Caesar attempted to retreat, but Port Eunostos' harbor was overrun with enemy ships, preventing escape. Reportedly, Caesar gathered his papers and leapt overboard in an attempt to swim to an Allied ship farther out. Historian Cassius Dio claimed that Caesar would have drowned if he hadn't been able to remove his purple garment. Still, he managed to swim the distance and survive. The Alexandrians recovered the cloak and used it as a trophy to commemorate the Roman debacle.
Yeah. Maybe in the booth she was told, "Could you not be so Canadian, please? Please."
Unhappy with Ganymedes and wanting their king restored, the Alexandrians approached Caesar with a compromise. Caesar agreed to release Ptolemy XIII after entreating him to spare the kingdom and remain loyal to Rome. Once freed, however, the king defied the agreement and continued the war.
Run, 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 like the rain,
By this time, a faithful ally of Caesar's, Mithridates, arrived in Egypt, clashing with Ptolemy's troops at Pelusium. Outnumbering the enemy, Mithridates secured the region between Pelusium and Alexandria. Ptolemy, warned of Caesar's ally marching on Alexandria, sent his troops to prevent passage over the river.
That's nice, I guess, John. John.
Mithridates warned Caesar in time, and the two groups confronted the armies of Ptolemy in the Delta. In the Battle of the Nile, the Romans gained the upper hand, sending the Egyptians fleeing. In the tumult and panic, King Ptolemy XIII drowned in the Nile.
And that is not what happened in the game. Because in the game this happened. Kinda. Although it was crocodiles, not hippos. That's cool, John. What do you use to make purple dye now?
After the siege ended, Cleopatra VII married her younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, enabling her to reign over Egypt until 30 BCE. Under her rule, Alexandria settled into its position within the Roman Empire, and eventually surpassed Athens as one of the most important cities in the Roman Empire. Julius Caesar remained in Egypt for a short time. He and Cleopatra would later have a son named Caesarion.
Who? Ah. Cleopatra and... You can also use red and blue to make purple, can't you? Excuse me, gentlemen, I'm gonna take this horse. Right, where to go? All these I need to do that later. Let's do the introduction to Alexandria after we have done a few tours. Yeah, now that you mention it. Because if you mix red and blue today, you get purple. That's why I asked. Yeah.
3 things are necessary when exploring Egypt: water, a good camera,
That's
and
true.
an omnipresent voice coming from nowhere.
Let's change the character again, because there's a trophy for doing 5 tours with 5 different characters, or finishing tours with 5 different characters. Let's see, who shall we be?
Welcome to Introduction to Alexandria.
Oh, she's so cute with a little ponytail. No, that's pigtails. I can't remember.
After conquering Egypt in 331 BCE, Alexander the Great decided to build a new city, which, as per his habit, he named after himself. After his death, Alexandria quickly became the capital city of the Ptolemaic kingdom and the most important city of the Greek world. The city was built between the Mediterranean Sea and Lake Mareotis, which resulted in Alexandria becoming a crucial cultural hub and trading center.
Thank you for the host, Michael. She even hums to herself. Oh.
Sumptuous buildings could be seen wherever one turned their gaze. The royal palaces, the many temples, the gymnasium, lush public gardens, and large avenues.
Yeah, because when you have a cut and you get the blood comes out, it eventually turns like black, doesn't it? As it hard as it or crust.
With its incomparable beauty and advantageous geographic location, Alexandria attracted foreigners, intellectuals, and traders. One of the most cosmopolitan cities of the ancient world, Alexandria supplanted even Athens as the most important Greek city in history.
I wonder. It appears when you play a child, the drinking tables are off limits.
Egyptian obelisks were highly prized by Roman architects. While Roman design previously favored the use of a single monument, Egyptian obelisks tended to come in pairs and were generally located at the entrance of temples. Several ancient Egyptian obelisks are still in existence today, though many are spread out across the world in locations such as Paris, Rome, New York, and London. All of this shows that Alexandria was significantly influenced by the rich past of Egypt.
We have an obelisk in Sweden too, but I don't think it's Egyptian. I think it's Swedish made. Don't say child, say child. I didn't hear a difference there, so I'd probably say what you're saying. Thank you for the host,
Alexandria had several main streets.
Coral.
Its most famous artery was the Canopic Way. It was lined with sumptuous buildings, houses, and temples, and was roughly 8 kilometers in length.
So it's
This
basically
street was one of the most important shipping entrances to Alexandria, and often hosted processions and festivals
So it's like your run-of-the-mill main street then, basically.
Παύλε, αμελή άνθρωπε, πού κοράν δίνασε. Χαίρε, τι πράττεις.
Yeah, I think they said, well, they didn't say out loud, but said there were some in London. So.
The width of the street, 30 meters, was abnormally large even by Greek standards. This is likely because the Canopic Way was made in a short span of time and based on an urban plan, as opposed to being slowly built over time, as was usual for the era.
I wonder if their children can ride the horses or the camels.
The Canopic Way originated in the western cemeteries, skirted the gymnasium, and then exited the city to head east through massive doorways towards Canopus. This structure was known as the Canopic Door.
How was it shipped, Jan?
Αφουγκράσουμε καλώς. Ένθατε είναι. Ιδιώτη, ελάβνην ούκη γνώστης.
The Eiffel Tower is French from to begin with, isn't it? Eiffel. Where is it? German? Let's change characters again. Yeah, that's what I thought. How do I get back there then? Yeah. Well, I know that the Statue of Liberty is French.
Welcome to the Greek Pharaohs.
What's this image, John? What is that? Is that how the obelisk was shipped to New York? Is that what you're saying? Oh, it's beneath me. It's odd. Did it drag it behind the ship, or did they just push it into the ocean hoping it will get to the other side? I think you got something wrong there, Paul. Yeah, that's because there are two Statues of Liberties. The one in New York and a smaller one in Paris. I think. Because that's what National Treasure told me. No. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. Sorry for my French, literally, because it is French. Freedom, equality, and brotherhood. Not freedom, equality, free of lactose.
Pharaohs were considered divine incarnations of the gods. As an avatar of the gods living on Earth, the pharaoh's role was to preserve fundamental values and universal harmony by removing chaos, Izfet, and ensure that justice, Mot, prevailed. The pharaoh, by divine ancestry and through multiple offerings, was the bond that unites the world of men to the world of the gods and allows the maintenance of the cosmic order.
Kind of like all sort of ancient kings.
The Ptolemaic dynasty reigned over Egypt from 305 BCE to 30 BCE. The dynasty was called the Ptolemies of the Lagids, in recognition of the founder of the dynasty, Ptolemy Lagos, a Greek general and close friend of Alexander the Great. While Macedonian, Ptolemy Lagos understood that to be accepted by the Egyptian people, he would have to adopt their traditions. Upon assuming the title of pharaoh, he changed his name to Ptolemy I Soter, meaning savior.
I wanna...
The Ptolemaic dynasty reigned over Egypt from 305 BCE to 30 BCE. The dynasty was called the Ptolemies of the Lagids, in recognition of the founder of the dynasty, Ptolemy Lagos, a Greek general and close friend of Alexander the Great. Born in 356 BCE, Alexander the Great went through a hasty education in the affairs of the kingdom before integrating into the Macedonian army, where he quickly rose through the ranks. After his father's assassination in 336 BCE, which some believed was orchestrated by Alexander himself, he became king of Macedonia. Ruler of a unified kingdom and leader of a large army, Alexander set his sights on conquest. Eager to reclaim the Greek cities of Asia Minor, he took on the Persian forces, earning victory after victory.
Probably not, John. I think this is not about Alexander, this is about the Greek pharaohs. Hi, Trent.
Ever victorious, Alexander the Great marched on, laying siege to city after city until he reached Egypt, where the Persians were defeated yet again. Viewed as a liberator by the Egyptian people, Alexander decided to become pharaoh in due form. He traveled to Thebes to make a sacrifice to Apis, then went to the oasis of Siwa, where he was proclaimed son of Amun. Officially pharaoh of Egypt, Alexander spent much of the winter there and founded the city of Alexandria. Perhaps not coincidentally, being pharaoh allowed Alexander to spread propaganda to prepare further conquests. He resumed his military campaigns in 331 BCE.
I don't think so, Paul. Maybe. Block with a cartouche of Alexander the Great or his son Alexander the IV of Macedon. That's cool.
On his deathbed in 323 BCE, Alexander the Great gifted the satrapy of Egypt to Ptolemy Lagos. Perfectly aware of the value of Egypt, Ptolemy ensured not only the stability of the country's borders, but also its economic and military development. At the same time, he worked with the Egyptian elite to maintain the internal order of the country. By 305 BCE, Ptolemy, well respected both in Egypt and in the Mediterranean, was at the head of the largest fleet of the Hellenistic world. Ptolemy officially took the title of Pharaoh of Egypt in January 304 BCE, on the anniversary of Alexander the Great's death.
That's cool. As I said, this is not really about Alexander, this is about Ptolemy and the Greek pharaohs.
Alexander died in Babylon in 323 BCE. His remains were placed first in a solid gold sarcophagus, and then within another. The casket was carried in an ornate custom wagon, gilded and set with precious stones, and pulled by 64 mules crowned with gold. The funeral procession was diverted to a grandiose temple in Alexandria, built in the conqueror's honor under the orders of Ptolemy I. Julius Caesar visited Alexander's tomb at the capture of Alexandria, and the Roman Emperor Augustus reportedly placed flowers there. However, though many powerful leaders claim to have visited it, the tomb's location has gone missing from history. Some accounts do state that the golden coffin was replaced by a glass sarcophagus, probably by Ptolemy X. It is also implied that Cleopatra may have plundered the tomb in a time of financial crisis.
And now I've cleared that trophy. Yeah, because then people will steal the coffins, won't they? That's sort of the idea. And glass coffins is not really the better idea, but John, they did not, I don't know if they said, but it was Alexander mummified? I do like that they have different running animations for different people. John doesn't know. Oh my god. Let's do the Cleopatra one. It's always fun.
Try using your eagle when you want a top-down view.
Hi, Bill.
Don't forget, you can still use photo mode at any time.
Thank you for the follow, Abs. It's deeply appreciated. Can't get it. No, I can't. Damn it. Yeah. Because he was a pharaoh, so I guess that would mean that he was mummified. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm good. Abs. Yeah, they said that during the game as well, John.
It's not the heat that gets you. Well, it might, if the miles and miles of endless barren desert without water don't first.
Welcome to Cleopatra.
Maybe I should have gotten here by
Queen of
boat.
Egypt.
See you later, Nick.
Cleopatra VII Theophilopator ascended the throne in 51 BCE at the age of 18. Though her early attempts to maintain power were often challenged, she eventually prevailed and became the sole ruler of Egypt. According to Plutarch, she was the only Ptolemaic pharaoh to speak the Egyptian language. Her intelligence, coupled with a good education and a great political mind, allowed her to make the alliances necessary to maintain the independence of Egypt while Rome was becoming a Mediterranean empire. It is important to understand that Cleopatra's knowledge of Egyptian language and keen understanding of the culture allowed her to make powerful ideological reference that resonated with ancient Egyptians. By associating herself with the goddess Isid, the Divine Mother, Great of Magic, and repository of divine essence, Cleopatra firmly established herself as the protector of the two lands and legitimized her place on the throne.
Well, that means that we have gone a long way when it comes to medicine, John. Instead of just, dying of old age at 30. So this is probably Cleopatra the 7th. Well, if all you said is to be believed, John, you have conquested... No, he didn't, did he? No. Your conquests are well spread out across many continents. Too. Sorry. I think they just said how he died, but I
Upon
can't
his
remember.
death in 51 BCE, Ptolemy XII Aulus bequeathed his kingdom to his daughter and eldest son, Cleopatra VII and Ptolemy XIII. As was custom, the siblings were married. The new pharaoh was 10 years old, his sister wife 17. The early years of their reign were not easy. Between 50 and 48 BCE, droughts and floods aggravated Egypt's problems. General Achillas and the royal advisor Pothinos kept intervening in the young ruler's political decisions, and eventually colluded to turn Ptolemy XIII against Cleopatra. By 48 BCE, Cleopatra was in exile.
And that is where the game begins. In 48 BCE is when you first take control of Bayek.
During Cleopatra's exile, the Roman Empire was not without its own internal conflict. Caesar and Pompey were at war with one another, and after his defeat in 48 BCE, Pompey fled to Alexandria in the hope of finding refuge. This turned out to be an unwise decision. Listening to his advisors, Ptolemy XIII elected to have Pompey assassinated, his head kept as a gift, in the hopes of acquiring Caesar's favor. This gambit backfired. Instead of earning approval, the murder of a Roman greatly angered Caesar.
I quite enjoy kebab. I haven't really had real kebab. I only have the one thin slices of meat. I would like to have real kebab someday. There are some Greek places around, so I can probably take them there.
Περάτε στη ψυχή, χάρη μηδέν, Θεοί εωρακάντε.
Cleopatra, aware of Caesar's anger against Ptolemy for the murder of Pompey, decided to take advantage of the situation. She returned to Egypt in secret, hoping to establish an alliance with one of the most powerful men of the time. Outside of the legend, where she had herself smuggled into his quarters in a carpet, what exactly happened during that fateful meeting remains a mystery. However, Caesar seemed to see a better ruler for Egypt in Cleopatra than in her young and too easily influenced brother. Invoking Ptolemy XII's will, Caesar attempted to mediate peace between the siblings.
I always find it funny to look at old art, because they're supposed to tell a story. Here we have Caesar and I guess Cleopatra. But the woman in the blue into the right looks like she's like, what the hell is she wearing? Shame you can't zoom in on her face.
Ptolemy XIII was enraged by the turn of events, and his advisors were none too happy to see Cleopatra return. Urged on by General Achillas and Pothinos, the young pharaoh plotted against Caesar and Cleopatra, resulting in the siege of Alexandria in 47 BCE. It was in March 47 BCE that Caesar defeated Ptolemy XIII's forces. The young pharaoh drowned in the Nile after having fled the battlefield. With her opponents dead or powerless, Cleopatra married her other much younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, and finally claimed the throne of Egypt for good. The end of the Alexandrian War also cemented the romantic and political alliance between Cleopatra and Caesar.
Yeah, it is bog standard really, but I still like to look at them and try to interpret feelings going by expressions and stuff.
In June of 47 BCE, Cleopatra gave birth to a son, whom she called Caesarion. Caesar did not accept the boy as his heir, choosing instead his nephew Octavian. Nonetheless, on his return to Rome, Caesar invited the queen and her brother husband to stay in the city. Her presence still drew much disapproval from the Senate. Always a strategist, Caesar left 4 legions in Egypt, and a man he trusted to direct Egyptian affairs, giving him control of the wheat supplies essential to Rome. Cleopatra and her entourage remained in Rome until March 44 BCE, when Caesar was murdered.
When did she meet Mark Antony? Is that even real?
Caesar's most faithful ally, Mark Antony, often visited the Queen of Egypt during his stay in Rome. Unlike most, he recognized the legitimacy of Caesarion, the natural son of Caesar. Antony knew he would need the riches of Egypt in order to fight Octavian and claim the Roman Empire. Cleopatra, in return, saw a powerful ally. In the winter of 41 BCE, she arranged a sumptuous tour of Egypt by boat to show Antony the wealth of her country and the power she held as its ruler. A romantic and political relationship followed. The Roman Senate was once again most displeased. To calm spirits in Rome, Antony married Octavia, sister of Octavian.
Oh, that's great, Rach. Also great for you to have a job interview, Bill.
Despite his marriage to Octavia, Antony remained Cleopatra's lover, and she gave birth to their children. Cleopatra increased her kingdom's territory and started a political propaganda alongside her lover in Egypt and beyond. She hoped to create a Ptolemaic federal empire with Alexandria at its center. Antony eventually repudiated his Roman wife for the Egyptian queen, much to the dismay of the Roman elite. However, while Mark Antony focused on Egypt, Octavian carefully gained military and political ascendancy over him in Rome.
So these coins are Cleopatra. And Mark Antony.
Octavian managed his own propaganda campaign and succeeded. The Roman people hated Mark Antony and Cleopatra. To avoid the censure still inherent in attacking a fellow Roman, Octavian simply declared war against Egypt. Rome's power still reigned supreme. The powerful Egyptian fleet, led by Cleopatra as well as Mark Antony's forces, were defeated in 31 BCE in Actium. Octavian arrived in Egypt in 30 BCE to formalize his victory. The following events remain difficult to confirm due to the many versions and legends around them. It is believed that after hearing a rumor about Cleopatra's suicide, Mark Antony committed suicide himself. He was brought to the queen as he slowly passed away. Knowing that Octavian would have her chained and paraded through Rome in defeat, Cleopatra planned her own suicide. She most likely killed herself with arsenic, though admittedly, the version where she uses an asp to deliver a fatal bite may be considered more dramatic. What happened to the body of Cleopatra is still a mystery.
Yeah, no worries, Rach. I was just gonna do another one of my shorter streams, really. Why does it look like she's not dead? More like doing a oh yeah. Like oh yeah. Up in the air. The funny thing is that that is not a dead body. That is a sleep body because she scratched her ear. Now in the Assassin's Creed continuity, Cleopatra is murdered. And this is a spoiler for Assassin's Creed 2. More because in Assassin's Creed 2 there's a statue of an Egyptian assassin called Amenet, and in her description it said that she killed Cleopatra. Sorry for spoiling anything for you, I'm really sorry. Right. I think I'm gonna be going for about 10 more minutes because I need to get food for my Tomb Raider stream later on. Let's go with that. Oh, Paul. Excuse me, coming through. I really like it. Ken's Notorious. Kenny's Notorious, sorry. It's one of my favorite games of last year, and this mode is really good and educational. And as Bill
It's
says,
not the heat that gets you. Well,
the
it
assassin,
might, if
all the
miles and
combat
miles
is
of
taken out of
endless
this
barren
mode.
desert without
So
water
you can't
don't
kill
burst.
people, you can't do anything with the attack buttons.
Παύλε, αμελή άνθρωπε, πού κοράν δύνασε.
Yes, I do think that this is better than Unity and Syndicate, even though I liked Syndicate. And I even liked Unity to a point. It suddenly became dull.
Welcome to Alexandria, City of Celebration. Like most Greek cities, Alexandria offered multiple forms of entertainment. Most were related to cults, religious practices, and the festivities surrounding those practices. Among those festivities, the most important ones were the dynastic celebrations, instituted in honor of the deified Ptolemaic kings and queens. These celebrations could go on for many days and included sacrifices, offerings, processions, and public banquets.
Ooh, wrestlers.
How shall I sing of thee, brightly shining one? Rocky Delos hunter, Letos golden sun, light bringing Phoebus, I am but your light.
Yeah, there are a lot of historical figures in Syndicate.
Κοράσιον μόνο είναι νη. Αμάξα ελάφρικα κακίσεως, αμένιστος.
Games and competitions were organized whenever possible in locations such as the stadium, the hippodrome, and the gymnasium. The residents of Alexandria favored such events where athletes, poets, and musicians from Egypt and other cities of the Greek world competed.
Yeah, I like the story and characters of Black Flag, but I did not like the ship combat that much. Which is why I didn't buy the Rogue game. And I don't really like Revelations either, because it got really boring. Again, I like the story and characters, but the tower defense sequences and everything about that was no. I might get the remaster, Paul. I don't know.
Like all good Greek cities, Alexandria had a theater. The architecture of this structure is Roman in style. This is because the team duplicated a theater from Cyrene. Roman theaters were usually semicircular and built from scratch on a flat area with structures designed to enhance oration. Greek theaters were more oblong in shape, similar to a horseshoe, and favored the slopes of natural hills to support their acoustics.
That's cool. Yeah. I didn't like the ships in Assassin's Creed 3, so I think that was the why I did not enjoy Black Flag as much as I could have. To the theater!
At the theater, one could witness the plays of contemporary comic and tragic authors. The play you are witnessing below is Menander's Dyskolos, more commonly known as the Grouch, a late and popular entry in the Greek comedies.
I mean, I cleared the story in most of the collectibles in Black Flag, but I did not do all the legendary ships because I could not be bothered. I don't like the kind of slow combat. It bores me. Yeah, but up until that point, or up until Syndicate, or even up until this, Assassin's Creed has only taken place in Europe and America. I mean, the first one was the Middle East, of course. But other than that, it's mainly Europe, which is a bit boring since there are so many places they can take it. Next one is yeah, you have a lot of games started, Rach. I would say that it doesn't really matter if you put this on the back burner for a while, because it is a big game. It's not that I don't agree with you, Kenneth. It's just, it's still America. Yeah, exactly, Rach. You haven't finished that either, have you?
How shall I sing of thee, brightly shining one? Rocky Delos hunter, Leto's golden sun. Light bringing Phoebus, I am but your lyre. Hear my oath, give me your song.
I mean, I have, with the DLC, I have played 115 hours of this. And now I started New Game Plus, and that's gonna get to 200 easily.
Welcome to the Panean. The Panean was a temple built in honor of the god Pan, divinity of nature.
No.
This Greek god, often represented as a half-man, half-goat, with a beard, horns, and goat's hooves, was considered the protector of shepherds and herds.
It's Pan. And it's Pan flute. Huh. What's this? Let's just take a rest. Stretch out those legs. That is the nicest position to have on a staircase, by the way, if you sit on it. Just lean back. That or leaning against the wall with your legs across the step.
Pan's attribute was his namesake musical instrument, the pan flute. His temples were usually located in caves and on high mountains, and were frequented by shepherds. It is likely that Mediterranean cults adopted the imagery of Pan to symbolize the Christian devil.
Yeah, that's a shame. Something that was a patron of shepherds and herds turned into the devil. It's called Discovery Tour, Kenneth. It's an educational mode where you get to learn everything that the devs learned during research.
To give proper honor to the god, Alexandrians built an artificial hill upon which they housed his temple to compensate for the flat relief of the city. The artificial mound had the shape of a spinning top or a pine cone, which was accessed by a spiral staircase. The top had a panoramic view of the entire city. Only such heights would be fitting for a mountain god.
And what bits are those, John?
It's not the heat that gets you. Well, it might, if the miles and
And then you can look at the passport to see all the tours. And there are in total 75? I think I counted. Uh, 36, 50, 75, yeah. And they are all spread out across the map. Like we started in Alexandria. Oh yeah, but they explained that in the behind the scenes thing. So it's not like, this is the real world. Just, we did this in order to make people feel included. Which I understand. I don't really mind. They also made up the theater. It's really a another thing. We only got 2 more tours in Alexandria, so I think we can do those actually, and then end it because I need food.
miles of endless barren desert without water don't first.
Yeah, they didn't go like, this is real, guys. We did not make this up. There were girls here. I suddenly have a camel. The last I checked I had a horse. I need food, John. I will be back at 6-ish, depending on how long it takes for me to prepare the food.
Welcome to Alexandria. The ports of Alexandria were a major commercial hub, effectively connecting Egypt with the Mediterranean regions and beyond. A tremendous amount of materials and goods flowed through the city on a daily basis. The large port market was called the Emporion. It was there that merchandise was traded by the ship owners, called nakliros.
How did that person die? Did anyone see what happened? Bye, Paul. Thank you for the follow, Kenneth. Bye, Abs. Yeah, Egypt is beautiful, even now.
Food and other artisan work streamed out of Egypt. Ceramics, glass, golden rings, and minted coinage. The local potters, using traditional Egyptian techniques, competed with those from abroad, and the textile industry flourished. What Egypt did not produce itself was acquired through trade, using local resources such as wheat and papyrus. Most sought after was pine wood from Syria, iron and marble from the Greek islands, gold from Spain, and exotic fruits from Europe. All this commercial activity contributed to the already decadent wealth of the city.
Sorry, I had to go and preheat the oven. Are those apples? I will not eat. You don't eat ham cheese as it is, John. You eat it on a sandwich. No time for rest now. Carrots. That's no, John. You don't do that. Is that salad or cabbage? I really can't tell.
The wood imported to Port Mareotis through Alexandria's seaward ports was used in the nearby shipyards, where most of Egypt's ships were built. Employing tens of thousands of shipbuilders, the shipyards contributed to establishing the Egyptian fleet as one of the mightiest of the era. Any wood not used in shipbuilding was further disseminated through Egypt for various purposes.
That's a big ship. Rats! Again, John, no, you don't do that. That's mayo. Do you put mayo in your mouth as it is? No, you don't. You have it as a condiment. Or as the thing you put in. Oh, of course you do, John. You Welsh weirdo. Hi, Warnio. I'm just wrapping things up in Alexandria, and I'm gonna go and have some food because I'm hungry.
The southern port of Lake Mareotis was the biggest in Alexandria. Save for a branch angling westward, the lake's size in the Ptolemaic era was roughly 40 to 50 kilometers from north to south. Its waters were maintained by a steady runoff from the Nile. In addition to the lake, a man-made canal was created to assist in the transfer of goods from the city to the port using barges, though it is not represented in the game due to its size.
Ah. Yeah, of course. Here we have the ship, the statue models they have in the game. All of them. What does this do? I'm counting the toes of the statue? Why are you using DuckDuckGo, John? Are you so against Google?
Banking was one of the most distinctive innovations brought by the Greeks to Egypt. The centerpiece of Alexandria's wealth was the royal systematization of taxes on almost everything. Basic items such as salt, oil, beer, wheat, and linen were heavily taxed. As a result, the royal treasury of Alexandria was able to ensure the economic stability of most of the administrative areas of Egypt.
Cool. I can't do it with a silent P. Ptolemy the Fourth. Philopator. Philopator.
By the late 12th century, the channel feeding the lake from the Nile silted up. Lake Mareotis lost its connection to the Mediterranean, as well as most of its water, as the lake slowly evaporated to a fraction of its former size. In modern times, Lake Mareotis is being kept alive through irrigation. However, only about 17% of its original size remains.
So this is from 98. That's a shame. I mean, it happens to all lakes, but well, you're used to popping things in your mouth, John, so I'm not surprised.
My king.
So, last tour of Alexandria.
For a glass of water.
Is that a phrase from a play or something? My kingdom for etc. That's Shakespeare, right? Where am I confusing that with some other kingdom? No, king. Play.
You can use a mount to cover long distances quickly.
Yes, yes. But I prefer to run.
Welcome to Leather and Linen in Ancient Egypt. Tanning, a process which dates from prehistoric times, was present although not highly valued in Egypt due to the heat. Leather was reserved mainly for things such as sandals, leather bags, dagger sheaths, quivers, and other similar items. Leopard hides, unlike regular leather, were highly valued and usually worn by priests.
Yeah, because that they do that in the game too. Go for C- to B+, yeah, that's good. Oh, did you mean something else, John? Ooh, what's this? Another counting. God damn it. She can.
Valued for its coolness and freshness in hot weather, linen was the fiber most commonly used for fabrics and textiles. It was produced from flax, which was plentiful in Egypt. Fibers were usually dyed before weaving. While color was used in the production of textiles, dyes weren't commonly used for clothing, and most Egyptians wore white. The color represented spiritual purity, a goal to reach for every day of one's mortal life.
How do you do grades then, John? Is it numbers? Because recently we changed our grading system to numbers.
Kere, ti practice.
Move like an Egyptian.
Here. Semu. Oh, Kere.
Stop doing that. Are you gonna do anything?
Ιδέως έχω απαντάν σιώδε.
This is a talking thing. No, it's a sitting down thing.
Various shades were achieved using woad, a dye produced from the leaves of Isatis tinctoria. The plant was cultivated for this purpose within the Nile Delta and allowed for the creation of various colors. For example, different maceration times of the leaves would result in colors ranging from red to green, while adding in limestone shifted it to blue. During the Greco-Roman period, other ingredients were found, resulting in a wider range of colors.
Is that correct, John?
This area's style is strongly influenced by the dye baths and tanneries of modern-day Fes in Morocco. This helped Ubisoft envision what such locations might have been like in ancient Egypt. While this tannery is within the city walls, back then they were often found outside the city boundaries. The tanner's trade was considered off-putting by the Greeks, as all these operations resulted in noxious smells.
That's interesting. So this is where Fez. Heh. That's a nice emote. Right. With that tour done, we can check our passport, and we've missed one. Oh, it's the hippodrome. That can wait. I will now go off, and I will be back in 40 minutes, maybe longer, with some Rise of the Tomb Raider, because it's Tomb Raider Thursday. Thank you all for watching, and if you're new and haven't already, please consider following. It's not a requirement, but it helps. It's nice. I appreciate that even more than just watching me. And I will do this maybe as a shorter stream, maybe in the weekend or the next week. I don't know. So thank you all for watching. See you later. But for now, I will say bye.